Son of Mexican legend Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. calls out Daniel Jacobs, and Daniel Jacobs tells me he'll even go up to 168 for the fight, and it's some easy work. Stay tuned. Boxingego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button, also subscribe to the channel. If you want to become part of the notification gang, hit the bell icon. Thank you for the super chats, the donations, the Patreons. We working one way or another. 2017, we coming. Now, let me backtrack this story a little bit to give you guys some perspective. Chavez Jr., he posts a lot on his page, but in his recent posts, he kept calling out Daniel Jacobs. Now, I seen after he lost to Canelo, he was calling him out. And Chavez Jr. said, December, boxing, hashtag 168, Chavez Jr. versus Jacobs. And then again today, he called him out. He posted a picture of himself on top and Daniel Jacobs with his trainer, Andre Rozier. And it says Team Chavez Jr. So he posted that an hour ago. Now, again, since the loss to Canelo, which was a one-sided loss, he's been calling out Jacobs, but it kind of fell under deaf ears because he had lost so bad to Canelo. And this is Daniel Jacobs' verified page, and he's responded. He posted this picture of Chavez Jr. I'll read what he said. And he says, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., I see the son of a legend wants some. Make it clear, I will break you. Drago voice. If this is what the fans want, I'm down. Sign the contract. Hashtag easy work. Right? And some of you guys, shout out to all the boxing fans. Some of you guys, you mentioned me in the tweets or in the comment section and said, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, make a video about this. And I responded. I said, this is a good fight. Jacobs deserves a big money fight, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And Daniel Jacobs, shout out to my dude, man. He's true Brooklyn. He represents Brooklyn well, both inside and outside the ring. He has that gritty Brooklyn side. You could tell he's street smart, but he's also educated, and he's a damn good fighter. But Daniel Jacobs responded to me. He says, Boxingego, bro, you know this is easy. I'll even go up to 168 to make it easier for him. I'll actually give him credit, though, if he steps up. So there you have it. Ego exclusive. Should be one, if not the first person talking about this. And I want to give my thoughts. I have no problem with the fights, and I'm going to break down and explain to you why. First of all, you got to look at Daniel Jacobs. I think he's definitely deserving of a big fight. He's a guy who was given no chance versus Golovkin, and just like Jeff Horn, except he didn't get the decision, but he did way better than a lot of people expected. I told you on my old videos, you guys could go pull them up where I was talking. I was like, it's not as one-sided as some of you guys are making it out. People are like, oh, Daniel Jacobs will get knocked out immediately. You guys listen to what other people tell you instead of what you see. And from what I've seen, and I'm not saying I'm always right, but what I had seen, Jacobs, he has the heart of a champion, the heart of a lion, and he's come a long way since the Dimitri Perot loss. So to hold that against him like he has no shot just because it's Golovkin, I didn't see that. And in my opinion, I was in New York. Shout out to New York, Brooklyn. I stayed out. I was in BK. That's where I stayed, and I had a great time. Actually, that fight was at Madison Square Garden, so I think I was actually closer to the Garden on that particular one. But nonetheless, I was in New York. There was a blizzard, and I seen the fight live. I personally had Daniel Jacobs winning. I thought he had just let his hands go more. Golovkin has a damn good jab. I will admit Golovkin has a very good jab, but that's mostly all of what he was doing outside of the knockout. And that was kind of, if I'm not mistaken, that was in transition. Daniel Jacobs might have been switching stances and he got caught against the ropes, and Golovkin has power. So that's what happens. You get sat down. But it was what Golovkin failed to do and what Jacobs did after that moment that really impressed me. Similar to Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev, the biggest difference is I think Ward, it took him a couple rounds to get into the Kovalev fight, and that was super close. You know what I mean? I had Ward winning that fight, but Jacobs kind of got right back to the game plan. He knew he made a mistake in transition. So I'm okay with this fight. Another thing, some people are going to be like, I don't want to see it. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. looked bad in his last fight with Canelo. And I can't argue that, because I thought he did too. I thought he looked bad. I expected him to be able to push Canelo at the very least, and he didn't really do that. However, you would have to be foolish to not take into consideration that Chavez Jr. has been a person who's repeatedly struggled to make weight, and him fighting after all those bad camps and fighting at light heavyweight against Andres Fonfara, not making weight and switching the weight at the last minute, all those disciplinary issues that he had with weight and not being disciplined, even though he got it right and it looked like he was training hard as hell for the Canelo fight, you can't just reverse everything bad you did. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. You can't just erase the past. And I think ultimately versus Canelo, you'd have to be foolish to not take that into consideration. I'm not saying Canelo couldn't have beat him, but there was a reason that the weight, and Chavez Jr., he did call Canelo out at 165. See, I know my facts. And Chavez Jr. I guess he said he could make 165, but that's what he believed. And the Canelo side took it down even more. So when you're already struggling to make weight, then you already know it's probably going to be problems. Even half a pound, that's gonna tap you. You already tapped trying to make 165, so that half a pound is gonna be killer. And again, I'm not taking anything away, saying that Canelo wouldn't have won, but that was a strategic reason why he took it down another half pound. And like I said, bad camp after bad camp, you can't erase that. So I do believe that Chavez Jr. he wasn't even throwing punches versus Canelo. So I think at the least, even if he fought Daniel Jacobs beats him in most categories: athleticism, speed, momentum, and things like that. Mentally strong, because to my knowledge, Jacobs hasn't quit in the fight. He got knocked out in the fight, but I don't think he quit. To me, Chavez Jr. could have continued with Fonfara, but he kind of quit. But even though Jacobs has a skill set, he's a guy at 160, and I think he has the frame to move up. But if he were to just jump up, then we don't know. We don't know what Chavez Jr. would look like. But I know for a fact Chavez Jr. would be more comfortable at 168 than under 168, 164.5 based on his size. So I like this motion. Chavez Jr. still thinking he has something left, and Chavez and Daniel Jacobs responding to it. I really like that. Like, see, you can see this picture. They say a picture says 1,000 words. Look at Daniel Jacobs. He was like not gonna be denied. He was juiced. He wasn't even at the weigh-in. He was like chewing his gum. He was trying to zone out, and I really got that. I got that. Golovkin didn't put on the performance that most anticipated. So I like this fight. Like I said, I think Daniel Jacobs really and truly deserves a big fight. I heard they were trying to get him on the undercard of Canelo versus Golovkin. I don't know if Chavez Jr. would be ready by that time, so I don't know if that's feasible. But if they can make this in the fall or October, I'd be down with that too. But I don't mind this fight at 168. I think as far as Chavez Jr., under 168, he's not going to look good. But 168 would probably be his range, because even when he was over 170 versus Fonfara, it looked like it was too much weight for him. So I think he would do better, or at least look better, especially with the guy who's moving up 8 pounds. But Daniel Jacobs, he showed, I ain't never scared. He said this is easy work. I'll even give him the weight. You know what I mean? And like I said, Daniel Jacobs definitely has the frame to move up, but it's still moving up 8 pounds. So I personally wouldn't mind this. Like I said, if they could put on the Canelo Golovkin card, great. If they can make it its own event, which they may want to do, great. But I think Jacobs deserves it. His loss to Golovkin, to me, was one of those losses like Sean Porter versus Keith Thurman. You don't really lose in that situation, because you're in there with a notorious puncher, and some people thought you even won the fight. So it's not like hold your head low, you lost. You know what I mean? I think harder losses to deal with and cope with would be Kell Brook losing to Errol Spence. He was calling him Jeff Lacey. He was saying basically, and I'll beat him, and he's the new Jeff Lacey. He's never beat, and then you got knocked down multiple times and stopped. So this fight, I don't think is like that. Even if Jeff Horn, I thought Pacquiao beat Jeff Horn. So even if Jeff Horn would have lost the fight on paper and the judges gave it to Pacquiao, that would be a similar type of loss where you don't really lose, your stock doesn't plummet because a loss to Pacquiao, that's, you know what I mean, that's kind of given and you did better than people thought. So whether you had Jacobs winning to Golovkin or you had Golovkin winning, you have to admit Jacobs showed durability and tenacity, and that's just what it is. So if he can get in there with a name like Chavez Jr. and get a big money fight, I'm all for it, right? Because you got to look at it. Some people, when they break down this game, like I said, I'm not perfect, but I do, because I cover boxing, I take into consideration all the elements. Some people want to see Jacobs versus David Lemieux. I would love to see that. But David Lemieux already said publicly to Daniel Jacobs on Twitter that I have bigger fish to fry. So for whatever reason, he has something in his mind that Jacobs shouldn't be next. So you can't blame Jacobs for that. Golovkin's team, Abel Sanchez, said they're not really interested in a rematch until 5 or 6 fights down the road or something, right? And obviously he's fighting Canelo on September 16th. So those guys are booked. Then you have Jermall Charlo, another good fight. He's new to the division. There's no saying that he wants to fight Jacobs. Besides, he's on the Broner versus Garcia undercard, right? So he's already tied up fighting Jorge Sebastian Highland. So even if he beats him, will he want to lose his #1 ranking within the WBC, taking on a guy with more experience at the weight like Daniel Jacobs? So the middleweight division, there's some players there, but a lot of them are occupied. Billy Joe Saunders, it was just announced he's fighting Willie Monroe. So I'm okay with this fight for those reasons. Let me know what you guys think. Who would win at 168? Obviously, this would kind of be a must-win for Chavez Jr., must-win type of fight, because he really didn't look good. And some people may even be turned off from that performance versus Canelo and say, hey, I don't want to see him against Daniel Jacobs. He has no shot. But I will say the big difference is I think he'll make 168 easier. You know what I mean? It's just like you have to omit, you can't omit what you want. You have to look at the facts. Sergio Martinez, he lost to Cotto, but you have to consider his knee. He couldn't stand. That's something we visibly seen. And the same thing with Chavez Jr. Obviously, not taking anything away from Canelo, but obviously the weight was a factor. That's why they strategically dropped the weight to 164.5. Even though Canelo was coming up, he was still fresher because he was having to lose less weight and Chavez was having to lose more weight. And it was evident because the week of the weigh-ins, you've seen Chavez Jr. in the sauna with sweatsuits, fully clothed, running on the track. So clearly weight was still an issue, even though it looked like he was disciplined throughout and really trying to make weight. He's a pretty tall dude and big dude, and you can't just reverse years of bad history not making weight in one camp. So let me know what you guys think. That is the latest from Daniel Jacobs and Chavez Jr. He did respond to Chavez Jr.'s call out, and he said, I'm game. I'll even meet him at his weight, and it's still going to be easy work. I mean, this is what boxing is, and this is what boxing needs. People get called out, and they respond to it. If they're down to make the fight, they let it be known, right? But Jacobs, he said he'll rematch Golovkin. He said he'll fight Billy Joe Saunders, who's fighting Willie Monroe. Why didn't Billy Joe Saunders take Daniel Jacobs? He's coming off a loss, and Billy Joe Saunders is the champion. You got to look at all the clues and everything you see. Let me know what you guys think. Shout out to Daniel Jacobs and Chavez Jr. I would definitely watch this fight at 168. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.